That's why Manny Pacquiao, after Marquez knocked him out, Freddie Roach said, I want you to take a year off. That was a bad knockout.
Manny Pacquiao is negotiating with Barrios to fight at 147. No tears. I haven't heard one tear. So guess
what happens when a man enters the ring against a legend whose fire never faded? And what do you do when that legend's comeback feels less like a storybook return and more like a perilous roll of the dice?
This we know that Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao has been in serious negotiation.
There are epics. And then there's this. A potential Greek tragedy set under Vegas lights. Neon Joe Rogan, never one to hold back, has issued a blunt, sobering warning. Mario Barrios, don't do it. Don't step into the ring with Manny Pacquiao, not because he's still the monster he once was, but because the fact that this fight is even happening sets off every alarm imaginable.
Let me ask you, is it a good fight? Mario Barrios versus Tank Davis at 147. Yes, it is.
Let's start with the basics. Manny Pacquiao is 46 years old. That's not just a number. It's a record of war. 72 fights, each one leaving its mark. His fists have been weapons since the late 90s, forged in battles with Morales, Barrera, Marquez, and Mayweather, names now carved into boxing's Mount Olympus. But Father Time is undefeated. It doesn't care if you're the pride of the Philippines or a multi-division world champion. The clock runs out on everyone.
You're 30, he's 46, hasn't fought in 4 years. Like, in your mind, how do you see the fight going? How are you going to beat man?
And yet, here he is again, backed by the kind of showbiz flash you'd expect from a Tyson comeback or a YouTube circus bout. But Pacquiao's return isn't just surprising. It's unsettling. This isn't a lighthearted exhibition or a nostalgic spar with a fellow retiree. No, he's diving straight into the flames, challenging Mario Barrios for a world title. You heard that right. The WBC has sanctioned this madness. A 46-year-old, inactive, unranked legend is now stepping in against a fighter in his prime for a belt.
What do you see yourself doing to him?
Yeah, no, I just had to use, all of that, like the, as busy as I've been in my career.
Joe Rogan's expression says it all, somewhere between disbelief and the onset of a migraine. On his podcast, between the usual jokes and jabs, he didn't mince words. This is the kind of fight that could end badly. Really badly.
World titles in 8 different weight classes. Who the does that?
And the way he did it. I'm a huge fan of Cotto. I love this school.
Let's be clear. Barrios isn't the second coming of Sugar Ray Leonard. But he's 30, active, and hasn't spent the last 4 years flirting with retirement. While Pacquiao was navigating politics, shaking hands, and giving speeches in a suit, Barrios was still grinding, sweating in gyms, cutting weight, taking punches and sparring. So why, in the name of everything sacred, is this fight happening? One word, money. That's the only honest answer. Cold, hard, brutal economics. Boxing has long since dropped the pretense of being a sport built on rankings and merit. It's a carnival now driven by clicks and pay-per-view buys. And Pacquiao? He still sells. He's a living legend with a fan base bigger than some countries' populations. But popularity doesn't equal readiness. It doesn't mean he belongs in the ring, especially not against Barrios.
From, I think, 108 all the way to 154 and knock out all these guys.
This is where Joe Rogan's warning starts to feel like prophecy, because what's at stake isn't just a belt. It's a man's legacy, his health, and his future. We've seen Pacquiao go down before. Who could forget that Marquez right hand? A nuclear shot that left him face down, motionless. The air left the room. That wasn't just a knockout, it was a global gut punch. And now we're supposed to believe that an older, slower, long and active Pacquiao can walk into a title fight, and not just survive, but win? This isn't a Rocky movie. There's no montage that can reverse biology, no footwork drill to restore lost reflexes, no amount of hill sprints with Freddie Roach and a stopwatch can undo what 4 years away from the sport have stolen.
Thank you to Manny Pacquiao. Unbelievable career that we may never have a career like that again.
Spencer Oliver, former fighter turned analyst, didn't mince words. This is a farce. It's the sport abandoning logic. Pacquiao's last outing wasn't a swan song, it was a fading echo of greatness. He didn't just lose to Yordenis Ugas, he looked mortal, slower, flatter, disconnected. The spark was gone. And yet, the WBC now ranks him at number 5. 5? Based on what? Past glory? If that's the standard, let's hand Mike Tyson another shot at heavyweight gold. Better yet, call up Lennox Lewis and book a trilogy with Klitschko. Why not? Forget merit, forget rankings. Let's just sell nostalgia. And the critics are right. This is the kind of circus that kills credibility. Barrios should be defending his title against real contenders. Young, hungry fighters clawing their way up, not a retired senator trying to turn back the clock like it's 2010. Even Frank Warren, ever the businessman, didn't dress it up. Pacquiao's return isn't a miracle. It's a marketing ploy. Sure, George Foreman pulled it off once, but that was lightning in a bottle. Foreman's style aged with him, size, power, patience. He wasn't trying to fight like a hummingbird. Pacquiao, by contrast, was built on speed, angles, and explosiveness. That's what made him great. And that's exactly what time takes first.
That's why Manny Pacquiao, after Marquez knocked him out, Freddie Roach said, I want you to take a year off. That was a bad knockout.
And the damage isn't just to the sport's reputation, it's potentially to Pacquiao himself. Boxing isn't a forgiving game. It's not golf, it's not tennis. You don't lose gracefully. You lose with broken bones and bruised brains, and sometimes you don't come back the same. Think about this. A 30-year-old Barrios lands a clean hit. It only takes one. The chin doesn't age like fine wine. It weakens, and Pacquiao's chin has already seen more missiles than a battlefield. He's been KO'd, dropped, and rattled more times than fans care to count. Every fight adds up, and at this stage the risks multiply. Even De La Hoya, Pacquiao's former victim in the ring, couldn't keep quiet. His message was blunt. At 46, rest is your best friend. Pacquiao might still have a killer instinct, but his body's ability to follow through is another story. Yordenis Ugas, the man who handed Pacquiao his last loss, made a chilling observation. Nobody wins this fight. If Barrios wins, it's because Manny was old. If Manny wins, it's because boxing lost its standards. Either way, someone's getting discredited. Let's not forget Barrios doesn't benefit much here. It's a lose-lose. Beat up a 46-year-old and you get 0 credit. Lose to one and you're a meme. He's the villain no matter what.
He's a bad man.
He's a bad man. I mean, it looked like he was on all the good stuff. It looks like his piss would melt the styrofoam cup.
Even Tim Chu, known for his respect, couldn't mask his concern. Pacquiao's name carries weight, but that won't shield him from Barrios' fists. This isn't sparring. It's not a quick mitt session with Roach for an Instagram clip. This is live. Fire. The unease is palpable, even among Pacquiao's most ardent fans. No one wants to witness a hero's fall, to see a king crumble slowly under stadium lights. Yet, that's the reality this fight invites. Joe Rogan, with his usual clarity, is merely the messenger of this uncomfortable truth. The issue isn't Pacquiao's heart. It's his body, the accumulated mileage of hundreds of rounds, countless training camps, weight cuts, early morning runs, unseen sparring wars, and undisclosed injuries. It all adds up. Perhaps Pacquiao knows this too. Maybe that's why the fight's happening now. One last dance, one final paycheck, one last roar from the crowd before the lights dim forever. But what if that last roar fades into silence?
If they drug tested him, it would ding like a carnival bell. Like one of them Bugs Bunny ones where he's got the big mallet.
It's a plea for sanity, for someone, somewhere, to step in and say enough. For Mario Barrios to ask himself, does he want to be the man who ends a legend, or the man who watched a legend fall and felt no pride? Because let's be real. If Pacquiao loses badly, the headlines won't praise Barrios. They'll say Pacquiao was done. They'll say, we told you so. And if by some miracle Pacquiao wins, boxing still loses. The floodgates will open, and every retired fighter with a heartbeat and a name will line up for one last payday, dragging the sport further into chaos. So what do we do now? We watch. We wait. We hope, perhaps foolishly, that Manny can walk out with his health, his pride, and his legend intact. And maybe, just maybe, we hope Mario Barrios hears the warning before it's too late. Because fighting Manny Pacquiao isn't just dangerous for Pacquiao, it's dangerous for the sport, for the truth, and for whatever sense of legitimacy boxing still has left. The ring lights flicker again, and here comes the real question. What happens if boxing's most thrilling storyteller walks into the pages of a cautionary tale? Imagine the scene. Pacquiao moves like he still believes in magic, and Barrios stands firm with the cold, hard mathematics of youth and power. The audience holds its breath as coaches hover ringside, tapping watches and whispering strategies, like secret incantations. Every punch thrown is a syllable in a sentence that could end careers. In that moment, boxing itself becomes the author, scripting tragedy or triumph with each crack of glove on flesh.
I was freaking out at first. It's a great honor, for a legend like himself, to want.
Then there's the corporate angle, that gleaming beast called big money. Promoters polish their glasses and squint at spreadsheets heavy with pay-per-view projections. They see Pacquiao's name shining like a neon sign in Times Square and pencil, in revenues that could fund entire gyms' profit margins. They sprout wings and fly blind to the human cost that floats in the ring's blood-tinged water. Television executives circle the fight like vultures over fresh prey, imagining the commercials, the slow-motion replays, the dramatic pauses before the knockout blow. Every ad break is a heartbeat pulsing with the promise of rating spikes.
Like I said, it's just my job, just to work on everything. Me and my team have been, training and drilling, these last couple weeks. And,
Grips for the commentators lay out the narrative arcs months before the first punch lands. Yet no amount of marketing muscle can rewrite the risk that lingers in every corner of that ring backstage. Trainers pace like restless journalists hunting for a scoop. They adjust gloves, tap tape, and pace again until the mat beneath their feet feels like quicksand. They know that conditioning can only carry a fighter so far. The rest depends on split-second reflexes. Reflexes that weaken as birthdays pile up. They watch Pacquiao's warm-up, eyes flicking to Barrios' shadow boxing, calculating whose tired body will fold first under pressure. Fans gather in bars and living rooms, eyes glued to screens, hearts hooked by hope or dread. Some wear Pacquiao, jerseys, clutch rosaries, and shout prayers. Others in Barrios' caps flex thumbs in anticipation of victory tweets. Social media ignites in a frenzy of hot takes, memes, and viral clips. The world watches, united by a single thread, the allure of a legend's last stand.
Back and, to contend against my title. And I know, this is a...
Then there's the aftermath speculation, the kind that spins like a carousel of what-ifs. If Pacquiao falls early, will his legacy fracture like old pottery? If he endures, will he become a myth reborn? Define logic and aging. Historians of the sweet science will debate for years, citing statistics, punch counts, and ringside anecdotes. The fight's outcome will ripple through boxing journals and gym walls, shaping tomorrow's champions and cautionary tales. Sports psychologists will pounce on every gesture, decoding the body language of warriors. They'll study flinches, eye movement, and stance shifts, looking for clues to the mind's cracks. They'll write papers on the psychology of comebacks, the thin line between courage and denial. Their work will fill university libraries, yet for all their analysis, the truth remains raw and unscientific. The ring rewards only those who survive. Journalists will chase quotes from former opponents who dusted off their gloves to reminisce. They'll dig up archived footage of Pacquiao's lightning flurries and Barrios' steady jab. They'll cobble together narratives contrasting youth and experience. Each column will play out like an old movie, complete with a nostalgic score. Readers will devour these stories, hungry for context to justify the spectacle they watched.
Probably like my biggest fight at hand. And I'm just...
Podcasters will argue into microphones, voices rising and falling like round timers. They'll invite ex-champions, referees, and ring girls to weigh in. They'll replay sound bites, dissecting every syllable and inflection. Their followers will flood chat rooms with predictions, regrets, and defiant defenses of their picks. The fight will echo across airwaves, a continuous loop of analysis and opinion. Meanwhile, gym rats will return to training with renewed fervor or cautious restraint. Some will vow to retire before their clocks run out. Others will chase the dream harder, convinced that age is just a number. Coaches will revise training plans, emphasizing recovery as much as raw power. The next generation will watch Pacquiao's final dance and either see a hero's farewell or a warning poster pinned on the